Nuclear accidents are a nightmare. They can destroy an entire city in just seconds. You saw the consequences in How to Survive a Nuke. This time, imagine you live next to a giant nuclear plant and a meltdown is just about to happen. Are you prepared? Don't waste 1 second. You have to know what to do, and you have to do it fast. This is How to Survive a Nuclear Meltdown. A nuclear meltdown occurs when the safety system of a nuclear plant can't control the temperature and pressure of the reactor. It can cause radioactive material to leak into the environment or even an explosion. Experts in Europe think that severe nuclear accidents can happen every 10 to 20 years. And remember, you live just 1 kilometer away from a reactor that is about to explode. You better get prepared. Can you survive the blast? How can you avoid being exposed to the radiation? How much time do you have before the nuclear fallout begins? Step 1. Avoid flimsy buildings. Maybe you don't have time to evacuate from the town before the explosion, but the good news is you may survive anyway. A 1 megaton nuclear explosion, 80 times larger than the Hiroshima bomb, can produce winds of more than 700 kilometers an hour in a 1 kilometer radius. Technically, humans can withstand that much pressure, so the collapsing building would be more likely to kill you. You may have a better chance of surviving the blast if you're outside, as Satomu Yamaguchi learned in 1945. Yamaguchi was just 3 kilometers from Hiroshima's ground zero. He jumped into a ditch before the explosion, but the shock waves sucked him from the ground and whirled him around. Fortunately, he survived, but 3 days later went back to work in Nagasaki, where he experienced the second bomb. Step 2. Climb high. Yamaguchi survived the second nuclear explosion because his office was located on a hilly area and a reinforced stairwell absorbed the blast. But the radiation from the 2 bombs caused his hair to fall out. He began to vomit violently non-stop, and his wounds developed gangrene. Eventually, Yamaguchi was able to recover from radiation. In 2009, at the age of 93, Yamaguchi was the first person to be officially recognized by the Japanese government as a survivor of 2 atomic bombs. Step 3. Look for shelter. Well, you survived the blast, but it's not time to relax yet. You only have 15 minutes before the fallout starts. Look for thick structures made of concrete or brick. You need to put as much solid material as possible between yourself and the radioactive debris falling from the mushroom cloud. After the Fukushima disaster of 2011, radiation levels reached almost 200 times higher than the average radiation dose a human receives in an entire year. Still, radiation decreases by 55% in the first hour after an explosion and 80% after 24 hours. Find a shelter where you and your companions can spend days or even weeks. Step 4. Prepare your supplies. If you live near a nuclear power plant, you need to have a place to shelter, and you will need to keep emergency supplies stashed. It must include bottled water, packed food, and essential medicines. Avoid consuming any food or liquid that has been outside or exposed to radiation. You'll also need a flashlight, a radio, and fresh batteries so you can stay informed. And don't forget cell phone chargers and two-way radios. Step 5. Stock potassium iodine. A nuclear meltdown expels radioactive iodine. You could breathe it in, absorb it through your skin, or consume it in contaminated food or water. This can cause radiation injuries and increase your chance of getting cancer. Taking potassium iodine as soon as possible will help your thyroid gland to fill up with stable iodine. This can fill your thyroid gland so it won't absorb the radioactive iodine from the fallout. Great! You survived a nuclear meltdown. Now maybe you want to consider moving to another town. The 2010 American census showed that more than 100 million Americans live in an 80-kilometer radius from a nuclear plant, and the number of people moving near nuclear plants is still growing. But speaking of risky locations, Have you imagined being in a crowded city when an earthquake hits? What can you do to survive the disaster? Check out our show on how to survive.